All right, folks, the Supreme Court hearing a case today to determine whether President Trump's use of specific tariffs is constitutional. Of course, we know President Trump has stated just how critical this case is to the fate of the United States. I want to bring in now Counselor to the Treasury Secretary Joe Lavorgna. And Joe, I'm watching some headlines come through. They're suggesting that maybe there's skepticism about the executive branch's argument about the emergency implementation of them. Just give me a sense of what you're feeling so far.
I think right now, Charles, it's going well. I would not believe everything that's coming out of the chatter, so to speak. The president, we believe, has the authority to decide what an emergency is. I think that's clear from prior precedent. And as it relates to imports, the ability to regulate imports, certainly a tariff, which is a tax, is able to do that. So we're hopeful that the court will rule for us. If it doesn't, clearly it could potentially cause tremendous dislocations. Right. Having said that, Charles, Secretary Besson has said, look, there are alternatives such as Section 122, Section 301, that will allow the tariff wall, which is so important, Charles, both in one, raising historic amounts of revenue, which is why interest rates in the U.S. have come down and not gone up as they have elsewhere in the world, combined with the real need to reindustrialize the U.S. economy and to sort of delink supply chains for national security. All that the tariff does, right. And it does it in a very profound way. So we certainly need them in place.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, we'll put up a chart just to show just how dramatically it's curbed our imports from China, right? And in addition to that, it's raised hundreds of billions of dollars for the country. And it's really good to know that the administration has alternatives in case the Supreme Court sees it a different way. I want to shift gears a little bit. The story kind of percolating. The administration acknowledging that there are pockets of weakness in the economy. And some are saying, well, maybe this is just a wake-up call. Maybe this is a shot to the Federal Reserve to pick up on this. How do you interpret this? I mean, because I talk about it on this show all the time. There certainly are some pockets of weakness.
No, there are, and the Treasury Secretary has mentioned that, and that's why the president has been frustrated with monetary policy, because for the better part of a year, the Fed said that interest rates are actually longer, but more recently, since President Trump was in office, that the funds rate is above what they believe to be neutral, that it's restrictive. And one of the areas that does appear there is recessionary problems is in housing. We've got very low affordability. That was the result of the prior administration, which saw an average 5% annual inflation rate over the duration of that term. That pushed up mortgage rates. Affordability is quite low. Now that the economy is growing, led by the supply side, in particular an incipient CapEx spending boom, those rates should come down. But it's hard for them to fully come down if monetary policy is restrictive. Right. So lower rates will certainly help housing. There are areas, Charles, in manufacturing that could be a lot stronger if it was for not for higher rates. In other words, we need those rates down. So there's areas of weakness. But there's also a lot of good news. We had over 4% growth in the second quarter when you strip out the federal side. It looks like growth last quarter was at 4%. I mean, the Trumpian boom is here. The outlook for 26 is great. But for us to reach full potential and get rid of some of those downside risks, which are there, we need monetary policy to be properly calibrated.
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt. Listen, I've always said, I haven't always said, but I've been saying for a long time, I think a lot of folks on the street are looking at the wrong thing. But having said that, this Powell Fed has lost a lot of influence. And I think the administration is going to have to do a lot of work when Jay Powell steps down to restore sort of the trust of Americans, and the markets. It looks like they've lost trust in the Powell Fed.
Well, Secretary Besson has had a lot of great candidates, and certainly the president wants to reform the Fed in a more proper way to get rid of the mission creep, get back to its central mission. And I think your points are spot on. And one of the reasons the Fed, I think, has hurt its credibility broadly is you mentioned the tariffs, raising tremendous revenue. They're going to help us reindustrialize over time. They also have not caused inflation. The fact that we're even debating what the inflation effect is firsthand evidence, Charles, that it did not turn out to be what many experts and what many on the Fed thought, that it would somehow lead to higher prices, an increase in inflation expectations. That has not happened. So that also has hurt some people on the Fed, their credibility.
I got just a minute ago, President Trump mentioned the affordability issue. We know, obviously, it played a role in New York City, but probably in all of the elections. The administration's done a great job, right, with the egg prices and gasoline, which no one talks about. They used to be the #1 flag when it came to inflation. What else is the administration doing to address this?
Well, certainly, we want housing costs to come down. That they're working on things like permitting. There's prefab housing, supply side initiatives that'll help. But again, on the demand side, we need lower rates. We need rates to be neutral, if not accommodative. Certainly the fact, Charles, that energy prices are moving lower under President Trump. We're almost below $3 a gallon for gasoline. We'd have to go all the way back to President Trump's first term when they were averaged about $2.40 a gallon to be at these low levels. So that's real positive. That's going to pull down break-even inflation. So inflation expectations coming down, that will lower interest rates. That will help the affordability side. And also, as the economy booms next year, Charles, as we get a continuation of what we call a blue-collar boom, people's wages will be rising faster than inflation. That was not the case with the prior administration. You had massive real wage decline. Standard of living fell. Over time, people are going to get even more of a benefit from President Trump's policies. There will be significant tax refunds coming early next year, Charles, because of no tax on tips and overtime. That's going to be a huge boon to the American worker, the blue-collar worker.
Yeah, I read somewhere $150 billion. I can't wait. Hey,
more. It's going to be closer, Charles, to $200 billion.
Wow, great stuff, Joe. Good stuff. Hey, great seeing you, Joe.
Thanks
a lot. You look good, by the way.
Thank
Working
you.
out.
Thank
All right.
you.